We spend our entire day rushing from task to task, fighting fires, and measuring our worth by our raw output. But the greatest threat to our long-term fulfillment isn't what happens out there in the arena. It's the unfiltered narrative we allow to loop in our minds the moment the lights go out. Every single night, as your conscious mind powers down, a critical neurological window opens. Your subconscious does not sleep. It spends 8 hours organizing, processing, and solidifying the exact thoughts you gave it right before closing your eyes. If you fall asleep counting your anxieties, calculating your deficits, and replaying your failures, you are actively conditioning your biology to wake up defensive, exhausted, and weak. You are running out of the luxury of wasting your nights. True happiness and positivity are not accidental emotions. They are strategic results of a conscious act of self-leadership that must be executed in the dark. A man building his life in isolation too often allows his nightly peace to be hijacked by a desperate search for external validation. When you lie down and measure your worth by the applause you didn't receive or the notifications that never came, you willingly surrender your psychological independence. True fulfillment is never about what the world gave you today. It is entirely about the value you contributed to your purpose. Shifting your internal metric from what you extracted to what you advanced changes the very architecture of your mind. By auditing how you served your vision instead of tracking who noticed your efforts, you build an unshakable sense of absolute self-sufficiency. Carrying the unfinished battles of today into your evening rest is actively sabotaging your own future. When you build alone in the quiet, it is incredibly easy to lie awake, replaying missed opportunities, failed projects, or things that went wrong. This mental looping creates a toxic illusion of control over a past that simply cannot be rewritten. True psychological resilience requires you to draw an uncompromising boundary at the end of the day, closing the horizon on what you cannot change. By consciously relinquishing control over today's outcomes, you protect the mental energy required to attack tomorrow's mission with absolute clarity. Measuring life only by monumental breakthroughs causes a man navigating a solitary path to completely overlook the subtle victories keeping his momentum alive. When you are building your kingdom alone, the absence of an immediate partner means you must become your own source of psychological safety. Intentionally acknowledging a single discipline upheld or a difficult boundary maintained builds the inner security required to keep pushing forward. Validating these incremental advances signals to your subconscious that you are making progress despite the quiet isolation of the arena. This regular practice effectively silences the toxic inner critic that demands absolute perfection from a solitary journey. Falling asleep in a state of perceived scarcity inadvertently trains a man's subconscious to view his entire world through a narrow lens of deficit. When you lie down in the quiet and focus entirely on what your life currently lacks, whether it is companionship, status, or resources, your mind spends the night organizing your identity around that emptiness. Recognizing that you already possess the total autonomy and raw freedom to shape your destiny anchors your psychology in absolute sufficiency. This intentional mental shift completely transforms your evening rest from a defensive survival mechanism into a highly proactive rehearsal for your future abundance. A man's daily struggles become incredibly heavy the moment he loses sight of the infinite game he is playing. When you navigate a solitary path and face the unavoidable friction of building a life, it is easy to treat a temporary setback as a permanent defeat. Going to bed, viewing life as a series of finite battles, won or lost today, makes the quiet hours feel like a burden. True resilience is discovered when you recognize that tonight's rest is a strategic pause designed to fuel a vision spanning decades. Aligning your evening rest with a long-term purpose completely changes how you perceive the deep silence of your room. You are no longer just a solitary figure sleeping in an empty space. You are a leader, preserving the vital asset required to bring your grandest contribution to life. Reminding yourself that today's exhaustion is merely the cost of admission to a legacy transforms sleep into a deliberate investment. Believing that your late-night anxieties only impact your private world completely misunderstands how an independent leader influences his environment. Even when you live and build in solitude, the energy cultivated in isolation radiates outward into every interaction the following day. Your peers, your clients, and those you seek to inspire do not just listen to your instructions, they subconsciously absorb your baseline emotional state. Allowing bitterness or unaddressed chaos to fester before sleep guarantees you show up tomorrow as a reactive, compromised version of yourself. A leader cannot project absolute strength externally if he is fighting an unmanaged civil war within his own psyche. Cultivating deep internal peace each night is ultimately an act of profound stewardship for the collective network, relying on your clarity. By choosing to anchor your mind in positivity before the day ends, you build an emotional reservoir that allows you to stand steady when others panic. Your current community and future family require a man who has mastered his internal environment so he can effectively protect theirs. Protecting your peace in the quiet hours ensures that when your tribe encounters friction, you possess the unshakable foundation needed to lead them through the storm.